He's both auteur and showrunner, a man so busy, I've been trying to have lunch with him since Sundance. Please welcome R.J. Cutler.
Long before Harvard, I fell in love with nonfiction. I fell in love with it. I think I was born in love with it. I did focus primarily on theater when I was an undergraduate, although I wrote a lot and took a year off and spent it at National Public Radio, where I learned a tremendous amount about nonfiction storytelling. I am very compelled by these kind of, I wouldn't call them characters in the shadows, but if somebody else called them that, I would think, oh, that's insightful. I was always into theater, which I also started directing plays when I was in elementary school. I gather friends. I don't quite know where it came from. And these were my dual passions through elementary school, junior high school, and into college. For me, there was an immediacy lacking in the work that I was able to do, and there were probably two ways to fix that. One would have been to just make sure I was doing more immediate work, but there was something else that I just didn't feel like, audience-wise, material-wise, that it was plugged into the world in the way that I wanted my work to be. And I stopped directing plays for a year and had this kind of awesome opportunity to produce a radio show at National Public Radio. It was thematic in the way that This American Life went on to be, and there was storytelling, and there was all this stuff, but it still wasn't, my deeper taste of journalism doing this was frustrating to me in that it wasn't theatrical and narrative enough. So what I learned about myself was that the theater felt like it wasn't immediate, but plugged into the world enough, and journalism felt that it wasn't subjective enough, and I didn't quite know what I was going to do. And around that time, I had this idea, the War Room, and I have this very distinct memory standing in the theater in Toronto at the Toronto Film Festival for the world premiere of the War Room. 1,400 seats packed, and like a response that we couldn't have possibly imagined or hoped for, and thinking, this is it. This is what all of that kind of trying to figure it out was about. But it was the nature of the work, all of what was instinctually satisfying to me and meaningful to me in terms of the storytelling I wanted to do, the work I wanted to do, the art I wanted to create, all of that suddenly had come together for me.
How did you kind of get together with Pennebaker and Hedges and get the access and get the money?
My answer to the questions, how did you hook up with D.A. Pennebaker and Chris Hedges, and how did you get Anna Wintour to say that she'd make a movie with you, are exactly the same. Called them on the phone. And and in a way, it was harder to call Anna Wintour than it was to call Penny and Chris, because with Penny and Chris, I didn't know better. With Penny and Chris, I just assumed, well, you call them on the phone, they're going to pick up the phone. Right. Now I know some people don't pick up the phone, but at that point, I didn't know. I just figured, who's going to not want to make a movie about the presidential campaign? How could Bill Clinton not say yes? And we set off looking at films about politics, at documentaries about politics, and the one that moved us most of all was a film called Crisis, which we had to kind of dig up at the, this was in ancient days in 1992. And so we looked them up in the phone book and then went over. And when we went, it was great, because I was wearing a t-shirt and shorts, which is how I dressed in the summer and before the revolution. And they served us wine and cheese in this beautiful townhouse in Upper West Side, and we just started gabbing, and they were like, well, you know what, we'd love to do it. If you can get access and you can get money, we are in. And we were like, oh my God, a dream came true. And we were like, let's get out of here before, it can't get better than this. Quit, once you don't want to sell after the close.